Welcome to our Urban Legends podcast. I'm Dr. Gloria McDaniel Hall. I've been a teacher, a principal, and assistant superintendent, all within urban schools in Chicago and around the country. Our Urban Legends podcast is a forum for sharing ideas, strategizing together, and supporting each other as we dismantle the deficit narratives sometimes associated with urban education and discuss where and how amazing work is being done. This is Dr. Gloria McDaniel Hall, and welcome to another episode of the Urban Legends podcast, where we are breaking through all those stereotypes about what happens in schools. And this is the first time that I have had my class join me to do a podcast episode. It's so exciting. So we have been discussing, this is our first night in class, and we've been discussing belonging and ways of increasing that feeling of belonging for students, for teachers, for us in this class. And we're just going to discuss a few questions regarding that. So my first question, everybody, is describe a time you felt like you really belonged in a space, and how did that make you feel? How was that set up?
I can start. I had worked in a previous district for 9 years with under a principal. She left for about a year and then asked me to follow her. I think feeling belonging has so much to do with relationship building and trust. Since working for her in the current district, I feel like she really knows me on a personal level. She knows my strengths, things that I struggle with. She's kind of pushed me toward a lot of leadership roles. So knowing that I have an active role in the school community and knowing that my strengths are being utilized, I think it really has given me a sense of belonging and happiness and where I'm currently at professionally.
That's perfect. Thanks, Meagan. Anybody else?
I can go. One thing that I've thought about a lot are like different classroom spaces that I felt belonging in, and especially I may not feel it in the moment, but after a really good discussion, I feel like I belong. And I was thinking about professors or teachers that really kind of facilitated this, and in the best spaces they've normalized and recognized differences, be able to say like, I am such and such, and because of that I do things this way, so it doesn't become the unsaid thing in the room. Making it a place of like, hey, we're all different, we all have things that are special about ourselves, and being able to name it and bring that to the group really makes everyone feel like it's a space where they can belong.
That's awesome. Thanks, Neidt.
I can go. When I was at my school with my first principal, we used to have this team. They used to come in and do work on like relationship building and things like that amongst the staff. And when it came to my team, because we were a very cohesive team, she had my principal and my assistant principal just go around to each person and kind of almost like speak life and speak the amazing things that she felt we were capable of and that she saw happening through us. And that I just remember leaving that meeting with all of us having this just amazing outlook on how we felt about ourselves and on the work that we were doing. Because like as a teacher, you really just give your heart and soul to this career. And so to see that that work was being acknowledged, even though she may not say it every day, she saw the little things that we were doing, that really has stuck with me throughout all of these years.
I love that. You got to do that as a school leader, Meagan. You got to recreate that. Okay, so what are some of the ways that you feel like you could be more purposeful in creating these spaces of belonging in your current positions? Thanks.
So I'm the curriculum coordinator at my school, but I'm also the instructional coach for all of the Spanish language teachers, all of the science teachers, and all of the math teachers. And I have 3 first-year teachers that I'm working with this year and 2 second-year teachers. And I think that something that, in terms of creating spaces of belonging, I need to get better at doing this. I feel like we have a lot of really amazing veteran teachers that have, worked and perfected their crafts. And one of the things that I'm trying to do is have them have a more open practice so that the new teachers can go in and they can see what instruction looks like and, across disciplines, so that they feel like they're part of this community. They don't feel isolated, like in their classrooms, or in someone else's classroom, because a lot of them share classrooms as first year teachers. And so they feel very disconnected, I think, from, that space and the rest of the school.
Erin, that's perfect, because my dissertation was actually about what are the supports that new teachers need. And that idea or that feeling of wanting to be a part of the school community came out as like number one. I thought it was going to be curriculum or something else. It was not. It was, I just need to feel like I'm a part of the group. And those people ended up not actually just surviving their first years, but actually thriving. So what does this all mean for you when you move into roles of leadership? Or if you already, I'm not sure if you already are, because we didn't do the formal introductions. We're going to do that in the morning, but okay, John, what you got?
For me, a big takeaway is the importance of being intentional about bringing every single staff member into the community. I think when I started at my current job, I was actually doing a building walkthrough with the school principal. And one of the things that really stuck out to me was the easy demeanor that custodians had with the principal. And I had come from a context where many custodians would point out, oh, we're subcontracted, the leadership doesn't know my name, things of that nature. Whereas when we were doing this building walkthrough, every adult and child in that building had some sense of, this is who our principal is, and we have a relationship with him.
That's perfect. Okay, I saw Trevor's hand, now 4 people's hands. Like, just go Trevor, Riley, Kevin.
Kind of echoing off what John said, and we learned this in our first class with Dr. Fitzpatrick, but this idea that culture eats strategy for breakfast. And you can have a good plan, you can have a strong curriculum, but going off what's been said, if you don't have a way to integrate people into the community and make them feel like they belong, well, they're not going to stay. And the best people are going to leave. Your new people are not going to feel loved, so they're not going to pour themselves into the work, which even allows the building to flourish in terms of what you want it to be. I feel like the only way to actually produce a positive learning environment, a positive school, is to have a place where people want to be. That, that includes staff, that includes students, that includes everybody feels like it's a place I am welcome. And that's how you get staff attendance high. That's how you get student attendance high, and all of those wonderful things that come along with it.
Yes. Thank you so much, Trevor. Okay, Riley and Kevin.
I was muted again. It happened again twice, 2 for 2. No, so this is what I was actually thinking of it from a completely different lens, because I wasn't so much looking at this question from what it meant in terms of my interactions with people, but again, like thinking that this is our curriculum class, I was thinking about like, what does it mean in terms of the curriculum that I'm choosing? Like, how am I going to bring the sense of belonging into the curriculum that I choose? And it's kind of a simple answer, but if like, anyone's familiar with Cornelius Minor, we got this, like, he is a huge equity guru. I've heard his name multiple times, but he was recounting a story when he had to choose a new curriculum with his mentor teacher. And they had, I think it was 2 samples or maybe even 1 sample. I'm not even sure, but she threw out the sample to begin with because they mostly taught Black students. And on the cover of the curriculum, there was not a single Black student. So right from the get-go, she said, just by looking at the cover, they're not going to feel like they belong. They're not going to feel like this curriculum is for them. So I think there's a lot to be said in terms of like, the intent or maybe even the unintentional presentation of the curriculum, because it could have been a great curriculum. I have no idea what it was, but just based off of the presentation, the visual, it defeated some of the buy-in, and that's not necessarily what we would want. So I think, it's a delicate balance in terms of choosing our different resources, how we teach, what we teach, what exactly we're going to be presenting students with, so they feel like they're going to get an authentic experience that's relevant to their backgrounds.
Love it. Love it. Thanks. Kevin, I can't remember.
I think just along the lines of creating that like belonging as an administrator, I think too often we've created a great classroom, and that's kind of what ends up leading us to administration or leadership, of that being proficient in the classroom we end up there. And I think there's too often something flips in a teacher that moves to an administrator, if suddenly that while I'm coaching an adult, so my demeanor can be more aggressive or more matter of fact. And often I think the more coaching I've done with younger colleagues and in several other spaces, it's just coaching a teacher is the same as coaching a kid. It's very similar concepts of making them feel like they're in a safe space to make mistakes, to be supported, to be seen as a person first, and their teacher second. And those kinds of things, do get sometimes lost in kind of the sauce of moving into administration. I think those are important things to remember as we shift from the classroom to, that leadership role.
That's perfect. Perfect. Okay, Nicole, I saw your hand up.
Yeah, I was just kind of wanted to add on to what some people said, but I think it's important for me to be aware, so to be aware of my power that I bring to the classroom. And I appreciated when she said that, like, I need to be aware, and then just be aware of what's going on around me. I see some of my coworkers now who are suffering, they have a lot of weight on them. They're not in the office, they might be in the classroom. When they come in, they're not in very often. And I don't see my administration being aware, and so I want to make sure that I'm aware of myself, and I'm aware of what's going on around me as I move forward.
Perfect. Okay, so our last question is, what advice do you have for us, for the professors in your graduate program, professors at a university in general, people who are designing curriculum and designing programs? What could we do to increase this idea or this feeling for students, especially in thinking about some people only teach on Zoom. At least we get to be in person sometimes. So it's like even more difficult to create a space where we actually feel like we belong together because we're separated from each other. But like in the asynchronous and in the, I forgot what you call the other one, but when we're together, like what ideas do you have for that? Okay, Stacey.
I think some of it is this idea of like bringing it back to earth. I think in a lot of classes and in a lot of times we can talk about policy and we can talk about things that are working and things that aren't working. And we have a tendency to make very real but general statements without recognizing that every school is not the same. Every teacher is not the same.
Nice.
And so I feel like it's very helpful to be able to bring it back down to the ground and to actually look at even our discussions for this weekend. Like, what does curriculum development actually look like in your world? Because there's theory and there's research and then there's reality. And so how do all those things actually hold their own truth, but really live together? And then at the end of the day, I have found it really helpful for professors to bring their stories to the table. And, our cohort talks all the time about Dr. Fitzpatrick and how he would give us case studies and simulations, and we had to come up with solutions. And then he would go, oh, that was my story, and here's what I did.
Nice.
And just to give us kind of a perspective of something that you can hear about and you can hope that doesn't happen to you as a principal. But then when it does happen, it is good to have the ideas and the perspectives in your pocket to go, oh, this isn't new. And so how do I deal, or
Nice.
What should be my steps?
Love it. Love it. Okay, Joel.
I don't think I could say that much better than Stacey just said. That was great.
Yes.
I will just reiterate, I think everyone has talked about relationship and trust. That's kind of been maybe the thesis of this part of the conversation. And I think the more that you've made yourself available before we ever met, I think that there was a connection and availability and a recognition of how stressed we all are, prior to us ever getting together. I think that created a level of trust and openness for us to jump right into this, have these kind of conversations. I think that's, even remotely, that's a way that can be done. And I would just reiterate, I think Stacey said it best, like we're all coming with valuable input. So I think recognizing that, but then also once that trust and some of that relationship has been established, then I think that's where correct us, kind of drive us and ask us those provoking questions that I think has made my time and everybody's time more valuable in this. And then, really speaking from your experience.
Love it. Love it. Okay, so anybody with a final thought? How does this all fit into, I think Riley kind of touched on it. How does this all fit into curriculum, and how does it all fit into teacher evaluation and all the topics that we're going to be discussing? Like, if you could sum it up in one big lesson, kind of like Joel just did, but with the relationships and trust. Any other or final ideas?
I think, because I think Trevor already said it too, was that culture eats strategy for breakfast. I think that's like the main thing that we took away from Fitzpatrick's course. And I think if you think about the culture of the building, if you think about the culture of the interactions as you're going through all of these major let's say development projects, because I don't necessarily know what to say for curriculum development and all the other initiatives that a school would lead, but that's going to be something. If the culture doesn't fit and people don't feel like they belong, their motivation and their buying to engage in those initiatives isn't going to be there, and it's not necessarily going to be what's best for the students.
Kandyce, what you got?
Well, I've been taking notes, but I think that one thing that I feel that's very important is just going back to being able to trust and being able to have open dialogue without judgment. And like they said, you made yourself very available, which is good. I like how you had us do the songs and the introduction. So I think all of those things, it shows that it helps you understand us as individuals.
Yeah.
And it just, I already like you. So
I already like you too.
I already feel comfortable. I already have a sense of belonging with you as a professor. And that's pretty much it.
Thank you all so much for doing an episode of Urban Legends with me. I can't wait until we finish the rest of what we have to do this term. Thank you.